Hello, Joes, and welcome to Badasses of East Asian Cinema, the place where I bring to light the myriad badasses that populate the East Asian film industry. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Oh, and try not to get smacked in the face, because today we're doing Beat Takeshi. Badass. Noun. A person who kicks so much ass that they earn both our fear and respect. This is a badass. Nanja kore! You say you've never heard of Takeshi Kitano? Well then, urasei, and pay attention. Sorry guys, before I talk about Beat Takeshi, I just gotta throw in some Yakuza speak. Anyway, allow me to introduce Beat Takeshi Kitano. Actor, director, comedian, and badass. Yes, this guy does it all, and well, I might add. He's also the first Japanese badass to appear in this series. Takeshi Kitano is most famous in his home country for being a comedian, and a badass one at that. He has appeared on many different TV variety shows, the occasional TV drama, and a few of his own programs over his long career. The only one that the average Westerner would have likely seen would have been Takeshi's Castle, a Japanese game show which was comically redubbed and released on American television over a decade after its original airing. The show was called Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, or MXC. On this show, his role was a feudal Japanese lord who ruled over a castle that the contestants on the show were trying to infiltrate. He also acted as one of the hosts. His unique style of comedy is pretty badass as far as comedy goes, with elements of absurdity, slapstick, dark comedy, and deadpan, which has made him very popular and has earned him many fans in Japan. To the Western world, Takeshi Kitano is best known for his films, in which he directs, writes, usually stars, and often plays a badass. Because Takeshi Kitano is probably my favorite director, and I have access to all his films, it was difficult to decide which ones to examine. Takeshi's earlier films were mostly gangster flicks, in which he usually played the main protagonist, often a gangster, who would do all sorts of badass gangsterly things. Interestingly enough, Kitano had a hard time being taken seriously when he began his directorial debut in Violent Cop. In Violent Cop, Kitano played a violent cop, who ruthlessly kicked the ass of criminals. To his dismay at the premiere of the film, many of the audience broke into fits of laughter whenever he appeared on the screen, as he was famous for being a comedian. The film was violent, as the name suggests, and dealt with drug addiction, gangsters, corruption, and even mental illness. Given the dark subject matter and the grittiness of the film, laughter was obviously not the desired effect. Violent Cop was a solid first film, especially considering that Kitano had no prior experience, and according to various interviews, didn't really know what he was doing. After Violent Cop, Kitano set out on a journey to be taken seriously as a filmmaker, so he made his next film just that, serious, and along came Boiling Point. Boiling Point is a film about two guys who are trying to get revenge on some gangsters after their friend had a run-in with them. They eventually meet Kitano's character, who is a loose cannon Yakuza member, and go on a journey with him and his lackey. Boiling Point was violent, stylized, and a pretty decent film, but its reception was still not as Kitano had hoped. The same could be said for the films that followed, such as Sonatine, one of my favorites, and A Scene by the Sea. So in a fit of comic rage, Kitano made the film Getting Any, a film that documents the journey of a loser who hopes to one day have sex in a car, or just sex in general. According to my sources, Kitano made this film to give the people what they wanted, a comic romp. The film starts with sex as the main objective, but quickly explodes into absurdity. It's actually quite a hilarious film if you're a fan of Japanese comedy. Sometime after that, Kitano Takeshi was involved in a motor scooter accident. Fortunately, he survived, and has gone on to make some awesome films. If there's one thing Takeshi Kitano is good at, it's making films that are very different from each other. To illustrate this, I have chosen 3 films that are just that. The first is Brother, a Japanese-American crossover film featuring Omar Epps of all people, who acts wonderfully.
What you gonna do about my wine, motherfucker?
In Brother, Takeshi Kitano plays a down-and-out, no-nonsense Yakuza, Aniki Yamamoto, who is forced to leave Japan after his boss is killed, and his crew is disbanded. He arrives in LA, where he has a relative, Ken, played by Kuroda Maki. Ken and his American buddies are small-time drug dealers, who seem to be just getting by. When Aniki shows up, he whips them into shape by effectively turning them into American Yakuza. They eventually start targeting other gangs, and their status and size begin to grow rapidly. Of course, what goes up must come down, and as Aniki and his gang grow and become too ambitious for their own good, problems arise. The film featured a strong cast, including badass Susumu Terajima, Omar Epps, and Masayo Kato, to name a few. This film is an easily Western-accessible entry into the world of Kitano, and is a recommended first view for those who are interested in his films. It's a cool and unconventional gangster flick, and also gave me new respect for Omar Epps, who I didn't really know when I watched this film.
I love you, Aniki, wherever you at, man.
Takeshi Kitano is awesome as Aniki and kicks all kinds of ass. Definitely a must-see. The second film is Summer of Kikujiro. Just looking at clips of this film, you might have deduced that it's a light-hearted family film. This is not exactly true. Summer of Kikujiro is a film about a boy who lives with his grandmother. His father is dead, and his mother is supposedly working out of town to support him. One summer, when all his friends are on vacation, the little boy decides to go on a journey to find his mom, and he enlists the help of his grandmother's friend, played by Kitano, to help him. Kitano is at first reluctant, but gives in to the pressure of his wife, I guess, and agrees to go on the journey. During the journey, they encounter all sorts of people and situations, some lighthearted, some a bit more dark in nature. The film ends on a high note, and is generally a feel-good affair. So, what makes it badass? Well, Kitano's character does. Throughout the whole film, he's got this retired Yakuza thing going on. They never really explain his background, but it's fairly obvious in some scenes. He's constantly gambling, punking guys off, and just generally being gangsterish. The film also has some pretty surreal, wild scenes, making it more badass. 'Cause surrealism is badass! The final film on this short list, is Zatoichi. If you've seen one Takeshi Kitano film, it was probably Zatoichi, also known as The Blind Swordsman. This film was Takeshi's first period swordplay, or chambara film, where he played the blind swordsman himself, Zatoichi. Even the existence of this film is badass. In an interview, Takeshi Kitano said that he initially did not want to make the film, but after being pressured by the wife of Shintaro Katsu, the original Zatoichi, he agreed to do it. All I can say is thank goodness for that, because Zatoichi is an awesome film. It has sweet, well-choreographed action scenes which feature gratuitous blood. It has all sorts of neat shots and unconventional artistic elements. It plays with sound editing and music like never before, and has tap dancing, the most badass of all shoe-oriented dances. It also has cross-dressing. Very convincing cross-dressing. Need I say more? Zatoichi is a badass film. It features badass Tatenobu Asano as the Yojimbo, and other awesome actors. And it's about Zatoichi, one of the most badass cinematic characters of all time. Pretty awesome! Kitano Takeshi is also the first Japanese person to play Zatoichi other than Shintaro Katsu, the original actor who played him in the good old days of black and white. Kitano Takeshi is great at what he does, which is making quality cinematic experiences. Whether that's through directing, writing, or acting, he's always on the ball. He is constantly trying new things with his films, and the end results are usually interesting, unique, and engaging cinematic experiences. These days, he seems to be experimenting more with surrealism and self-identity. It's all pretty interesting, but it doesn't change the fact that he's a badass. If you're a fan of East Asian film and you don't know who this guy is, then go and look him up and see what you're missing. Now!
뚫리님이니까 그렇지 새끼. I'm at the studio, man. Hey, 우리 gangsta, 졸라 studio gangsta.
Many people believe that Takeshi Kitano also directed the movie Battle Royale. This isn't true. He was just in it.